Hi everyone, welcome back to Paying IT Forward, where we demystify IT for businesses and professionals. My name is Obi, and today I'll be talking about a set of roles in the IT industry. I'll be comparing and contrasting between them and just trying to make sense of it really. The roles I'll be talking about today are the business analyst role, the enterprise architect role, the solution architect role, the technical architect role, and finally the product owner / product manager role. Now, there are some similarities between these roles I've mentioned. They kind of vary from a functional skill set to a technical skill set. So there's a lot of interesting stuff for us to uncover here today. So if you're a business, I hope this video is helpful for your resourcing strategy, so you know where and how to place these skill sets within your organization. And if you're a young professional navigating your early career in IT, I hope this video helps steer and make better decisions that eventually get you to where you want to be in your career. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the content. Right. So this video is actually a direct follow-up to the previous video that I just released, where I was talking about enterprise architecture. And in the last segment of that video, I did a quick comparison between an enterprise architect and a business analyst. So I'll start from there in today's video. I would first go into talking about what a business analyst is and, take it from there. So who is a business analyst? A business analyst has a very, very wide skill set. You can often see business analysts across different industries or, different industries within, IT, if you can describe it that way. For example, you can see a business analyst that is a bit more focused on, SaaS solutions, SaaS products, software as a service, a direct solution that end users, take advantage of. Or you can see a business analyst that is more involved in IT operations, working within an organization to streamline businesses, the business's processes, people problems, and technology problems. So there is definitely that element to business analysis. A business analyst I would also describe as being more functional, regardless of the foundation or where business analyst has come from. They would definitely function in a more functional capacity. And the best way to look at that is a functional skill set has more to do with working with end users, stakeholders, or understanding the market enough to design the requirements or the models for a solution, whatever that solution might be. While a technical skill set is more around implementing the solution directly. So you're thinking software developers, back-end, front-end, and things of that sort. So I'll definitely describe a business analyst as being more functional than technical, but it's also very important for a business analyst to understand technical elements, because they need to be able to, just as important as they have to talk to end users, it's also important that business analyst is able to speak to back-end developers so they know the feasibility or the viability of, the solutions that can be implemented. They must be technical to a limit, so they understand the solution, but not actually building the solution, if that makes sense. Another point about a business analyst is they tend to lead by influence and not by real authority. I think this is a major difference with how the business analyst role is implemented. So what does that mean? If you look at a software development company, oftentimes you would find a business analyst working alongside a product owner or a product manager to break down requirements in a more detailed work items. A business analyst has a wide skill set for gathering the requirements, breaking it down, and things of that sort, while they provide that information to a product owner, a product manager who is then uses that information to make decisions. So in that sense, the product owner, the product manager is the decision maker, while the business analyst gathers all the information that helps the product owner make better decisions. So they tend to lead by influence, not by real authority. And I think that's a major difference between a business analyst and another skill set. You sort of see the same thing in IT operations as well, where, a business analyst might be attached to an enterprise architect or a solution architect or a project where they get involved in eliciting different requirements, but not actually leading on that project as such. So by the same thinking, a business analyst tends to operate in a more sporadic and reactive way. What that means is they are more involved on a project-to-project basis, right? So if you look at IT operations, for example, an organization has a business problem that they've identified, maybe through different metrics, quantitatively or qualitatively, and they will bring in the business analyst to, help identify the problem, find its root cause, and propose a solution. And they would scope all that work and pass that on to an implementation team, which is sort of the more technical skill set, and the project manager. And obviously they will be looped into the project, but the primary assignment is kind of tapers out from that point. And sometimes you might find the business analyst coming in to do a post-implementation review. That happens sometimes, but there's no real sense of ownership, as I'm sure you would see in some of these other roles I'll be talking about today, like an enterprise architect or a product owner, who have a real sense of ownership around the particular technology, around the particular system, or around the particular department, for example, within an organization. Yeah. So next we'll be talking about the enterprise architect. Now, I think the first thing to mention about an enterprise architect is they focus on a business's operational strategy, on a business's operational model. They focus on operations, IT operations. And why it's important to say that is it's a bit different from a business analyst who might focus on different areas like cybersecurity, might focus on software development, might focus on IT operations. I would say an enterprise architect sits on top of that. They are involved or interested in anything that affects a business's operation. So if a business wants to introduce a new software solution to reach its customers, an enterprise architect will be involved in the design or the considerations around that. Not to say an enterprise architect will play the role of a product owner and a product manager, but they will be involved in some sort of way, but they don't focus on that as much as a product owner would, or a business analyst might do. But they would be involved in that. Their main focus is operations, business operations, anything that has to do with the way a business operates, they are involved in that. Yeah. Now, I would also say that the focus of an enterprise architect is to plan and scope and design change initiatives in such a way that if there's a significant reduction in the risk of failure with that change initiative. The way they are able to achieve that is because they consider change across all the relevant domains that need to be considered. Really, they consider change in the business domain, the application domain, the data domain, the infrastructure domain, and even like the security domain as well, cybersecurity, data privacy, whatever needs to be considered. And for that reason, there's a higher chance that the change initiatives that come from an enterprise architect tend to be more successful the first time around and hit the intended goal needed by the CEO, the board that is trying to drive that change. So this is another reason why enterprise architects are very well sought after, because if you've been involved in IT operations, one thing you would know is that changes tend to fail. It's quite common for changes to fail when they are done a particular type of way without the right amount of consideration. The changes don't always hit the intended mark, but when you have an enterprise architect and they apply the methodologies and the frameworks that come with the discipline, there's a higher chance of getting it right the first time and hitting the intended mark. So for that reason, an enterprise architect is able to save a business a lot of money. There is not multiple projects, where you see instances where a project has to be delivered 10 times to get it right. An enterprise architect might come with a strategy that has only 3 iterations and, saves, 60% of what would have been spent before. So this is another reason why they are well sought after. They make change projects more cost effective as well as being valuable. An enterprise architect tends to focus on something called technical debt. And technical debt tends to come from, design choices or implementation choices in terms of code as well that are made to just deliver a solution now. But there is no consideration of how does this affect us 2 months down the line? How does this affect us in the mid to long term? A lot of instances where you see developers coming back to code to manage and maintain customizations, and there's a cost element to that as well. So an enterprise architect plans change in a way that mitigates or manages technical debt, which saves a company a lot of money. Another reason why they're well sought after. Another point about an enterprise architect is that there would be a real sense of ownership, a real sense of owning the whole life cycle. They understand what has happened before, and they are sort of planning not just for the mid-term future, but the long-term future as well. So change goes through the enterprise architectural capability in a real way, and that's why they are able to be effective in managing and mitigating things like technical debt. It's very different from a business analyst who I said works in a more sporadic and reactive way and is often more involved in a project-to-project basis, rather than an enterprise architect who has a real sense of ownership, within whatever, segments they are assigned to within an organization's operations. So for this reason, they are able to provide clarity through a roadmap in an organization. They are able to, let the business know, like, okay, within a department, we're going to make change A, B, C, and we're doing it because of this reason. And this is very good for, managing the change culture within an organization, because people are well informed and they know what is going on. They know what to expect, and they have time in often cases to, understand how a change initiative would affect them and prepare for that, which is very important when you're looking at change management in an organization. One phrase I like to use with an enterprise architect is, an enterprise is the jack of all trades quote, which I'm sure a lot of you know. So a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So like I said, they are competent across many different domains enough to understand the viability and the feasibility of different solutions that need to be delivered along with the change. So that element of the way they work is very important. But, across board, I would say they are not technical to the point where they are actually implementing the change. They are technical enough to understand the requirements or, the constraints of those changes, but they work in a more functional capacity than the technical capacity. So if you have a bar where, one end you have the functional, the extreme functional, then the other end you have the extreme technical, an enterprise architect will probably cover 2/3 from the functional end to the technical end, but not actually hitting the extreme of the technical end, if that makes sense. So that's how they tend to operate. You see enterprise architects that come from an infrastructure background, from a solution architecture background, which is more around applications and data, or a business analyst background, which is more around processes and people and things of that sort. Like I said, they are very well sought after because they save companies a lot of money in the long term by managing things like technical debt, giving clarity about change initiatives in an organization, and reducing the risk of change failure in an organization. Thank you. The final thing to mention about an enterprise architect is they tend to define solutions or design requirements or solution requirements in a way that is platform agnostic. So it is not sort of specific to the technical architecture of any particular platform. For example, if you're looking at cloud computing services, you could say like they don't design solutions specifically around the way Microsoft works, or AWS works, or GCP works, or any sort of platform you can really think about. They define solutions in a way that works best for an organization or the enterprise that they are, defining that solution for. And that is their focus, which is the right focus, because oftentimes you see, experts on specific platforms that try to force an organization into a box created by particular platform because that is their skill set, while an enterprise architect would take a more objective view, look for the right solution for the organization, and find the right platform that fits or can accommodate that solution, and not the other way around. I think you find an interesting contrast between an enterprise architect and a solution architect, which I'll be talking about next. So next, we're going to be talking about a solution architect. A solution architect, in my opinion, or where you tend to see solution architects assigned in organizations, they tend to be platform specific. They tend to be tied to a particular type of platform. For example, like an ERP system. They are subject matter experts when it comes to platforms. So you might find a solution architect who has a very deep understanding of, the architecture within Oracle, SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, different platforms like that. So what they are great at doing is, if you can give them a problem, right, and design some sort of agnostic solution, for them, what they are very good at is taking that agnostic solution and fitting it into that sort of platform that they are experts at. So what tends to happen when you have an enterprise architect and a solution architect working together is that your enterprise architect defines identifies the problem and defines an agnostic solution to that problem, and then passes that on to a solution architect who is going to, add more detail or add more nuance to the solution that is specific to whatever platform or solution, any, customer off-the-shelf solution, a commercial off-the-shelf solution that has been, selected to solve that problem. So that is, effectively how a solution architect tends to work. They also consider technical debt, but it's more specific within that platform. It's more specific within that solution that they are subject matter experts on. In terms of domains, while you can look at, a business, an enterprise architect, considering all the domains, considering the business domain, the data domain, the application domain, and the infrastructure domain, you tend to see solution architects to be more experts in the application and data domains, most especially. Not in all cases, but I think that is definitely the norm you would find in industry. And that's about the solution architect. When you also consider a solution architect, what you tend to find is they are functional, but they are quite technical. So I'll say they are very, very balanced between how functional and how technical they are. While they might not be on the extreme end of being functional, they might not be on the extreme end of being technical as well. Some of these platforms are no-code, low-code solutions today, so some solution architects don't have to, write code. In some cases, they might do so, they might be a bit more technical or get to the extremes of being technical. That is what you tend to find with a solution architect, considering how functional or how technical they might be. So next we'll be talking about the technical architect. And I think amongst the different architectural roles I've spoken about today, like your enterprise architect, your solution architect, the technical architect is the most technical, as you might imagine from the name. So if you're looking at that spectrum where you have your, one end, your functional skill set, and then other end, your technical skill set, while you have the enterprise architect being more functional and the solution architect being somewhere in the middle, your technical architect is definitely the most technical person and at the extreme of the extreme end of the technical skill set. So they are actually the ones who implement the solutions. And I think the best way to look at your technical architect for an example of a technical architect is really a senior software engineer or senior data engineer, for example. And shout out to my friend Roland, who explained this to me. When a business analyst, for example, passes requirements or designs or models, around the solution to an implementation team, an inexperienced software developer, software engineer would jump into just building stuff without making considerations. Now, this is what makes someone a technical architect or a senior solution software engineer or database engineer or data engineer, is they make considerations on how they are going to write the code in a way that, for example, considers scalability of the solution, speed, performance, accessibility of the solution. They look at how they, design the database pipeline to increase API access or, things of that sort, or, reduce errors, or, the API management of different technical solutions that they build. They do design considerations related to that before they just start building. And like I said, the technical architect is a technology expert. They are focused on one or multiple technologies. So they might be focused on technology like Java, they might be focused on technology like Python, they might be focused on database technologies like SQL, PLSQL, TLSQL, NoSQL as well. things of that sort. So they are technical experts, and that is they are senior software or database engineers who are able to make design considerations that limit technical debt and create a better solution effectively. So yeah, they tend to be the leaders of the implementation team. You tend to have, if you're not working with any platform or no-code, low-code solution, you tend to have an enterprise architect working with, or a business analyst working with a technical architect who is able to take those requirements and make all the relevant considerations before implementing those requirements in a way that promotes performance, reduces technical debt, considers things like scalability, performance, speed, accessibility, and all those non-functional requirements that are also important for how change solutions are implemented and built and also delivered. So that is about the technical architect. So next, we'll be talking about the product owner or product manager. For the purpose of this video, I'll just say product owner. A product owner is very, very similar to an enterprise architect, but rather than focusing on operations, they focus on a software product in most cases anyways. They are the decision makers behind the software. So they have a lot of engagement with the end users or the stakeholders using a software, or they understand the market and they understand what they're trying to deliver, they understand the vision of the product, and they're able to work based on that information to make decisions with how a solution is implemented, built, from a functional perspective, and obviously liaising or collaborating with their software engineers or database engineers to make that solution a reality. So I think that's definitely one thing to say about the product owners or the product managers. They tend to be more functional than technical. Like I said, they are more. They need to be technical because they need to be able to converse and understand the plight or the technical considerations around software that is being built. So they need to be able to follow along in conversations with your software engineer. So like I think every day, the more technical a product owner is, the more valuable they are as well. So they kind of have to be a jack of all trades in a sense as well. Just like I said about jack of all trades is the master of none, but often better than the master of one. So they understand technology, they understand things across all the relevant domains. Yeah, and I think the final thing to say is that they are the real decision makers around the product. That framework has proven to be very successful. There's been an emergence of sort of product-led growth within organizations where, aligned with digital transformation, organizations are looking for automated software that makes operations more efficient and improve the accessibility to end users, in providing services or meeting their various needs. So that is what they describe as a product owner or a product manager. In often cases, you tend to see product owners or product managers that, have a business analysis skill set as well, because that helps them elicit requirements from end users or, be able to conduct quantitative and qualitative research in the market as well, to design requirements and models relevant for a particular product. Yep. So that's about your product owner / product manager. Right, so thanks for watching today's video. We've been able to speak about a key set of roles in the IT industry. We've spoken about the enterprise architect role, the solution architect role, the technical architect role, the product owner / product manager role, and finally the business analyst role. So if you're a senior executive and you've been watching this video, I hope you found information that has been able to give you some clarity about your resource strategy, within your organization. If you're a young professional watching this video as well, I hope you've been able to give some insight. So you've been able to get some insight. So you have an idea of maybe what you might be more interested in, or, what career path you want to align yourself with. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and engage in the comment section. That's very valuable, so I can find other ways to make the content even better. And remember, it's PITF with OB on all social media platforms. So until the next video, take care and watch out for new content. Thank you.